This program only reflects the personal views of the program host and all the individual contributors.
Good evening, this is Newsline. I am Michael Chigani. There's now a new term in Hong Kong, hate the rich. Do you hate the rich? With me are two political experts, James Song and Michael DeGolyer. Let me introduce the both of you. First, Michael DeGolyer, you are with Baptist University, the Hong Kong Transition Project, and you do public opinion polls. James Song, you're with the City University professor. Hate the rich, as I said in the introduction. There's a new sentiment in Hong Kong. Everybody's talking about it. Anti-business sentiment, hate the rich sentiment. Since you're closest to me, Michael DeGolyer, I'll ask you this first. Why is there suddenly this sentiment?
Suddenly is the operative word there. It's quite a turnaround. I mean, it's easy for people who've lived in Hong Kong any length of time to remember when Li Ka-shing was called Superman and highly admired, and everybody looked up to him and wanted to be like him. And that was the greatest hope, you know, to get rich.
Everybody wanted to be like him, exactly.
Exactly. And
but they felt they could.
And that's the key thing.
Right.
That's the key. In fact, we found not only through surveys, but last year I was teaching a bunch of 20 and 30-year-old kind of medium grade folks moving up in the civil service and various other things in a master's program. And I asked them, who had it better, your parents or you? And every single person out of 88 raised their hand indicating that their parents had it better.
That's not right, is it?
Well, it's that loss of hope. It's that loss of belief in the future. It's that loss of belief that you can do better, that things will be better, that the next generation will have it better, that all the sacrifices you're making now are going to pay off. And I think that's what we have, I think, is not so much hate as just a deep disillusion, a loss of hope. I think that's loss of hope, a loss of confidence in the Hong Kong system
and its future.
That's right.
Let me go to James. James Song City University professor. Now, you heard what Michael DeGolyer say. Once upon a time, Li Ka-shing was regarded as Superman. Now, recently, some weeks ago, he had a picture with Hu Jintao. Hu Jintao, the Chinese president, gave him a special meeting. And instead of that being just a picture of the president with Hong Kong or Asia's richest man, there was a lot of speculation about why this was held, the meeting was held. Was it favoring the rich? Have Hong Kong people changed to that extent that they feel that this meeting shouldn't have taken place?
I think it's up to different interpretation about the message the president who want to send to the Hong Kong people or the Chinese people. It seems that it's really unrare. It's really rare and unusual for that kind of meeting, although it's just 10 minutes. It's president who used to be maintain a distance from the business people. And according to my memory, actually this is the very first time for the #1 boss in China to give a great honor to a businessman of Hong Kong.
But what's wrong with that, Dr. Song? If the president of a country meets with I mean, I'm sure the president of the United States would meet with Bill Gates. They don't make such a big deal of it, but these things happen. So why is it rare?
Because
why is it unusual?
The president tried to maintain a distance from the businessman in the sense that he just not care about the businessman, but all the people, all the grassroots people, middle class.
And suddenly he meets with Li Ka-shing.
Yeah.
What message was he trying to send?
I think on the one hand, Li is the major investor in mainland China for many years. He probably has one of the largest share in investment in Shenzhen, Yantian port, which is the container business.
So basically, it's just an investment thing. It was not a political message.
I think, as Hu said, we would like to see more investment into China. We would like the business community in Hong Kong or from over the world to have more contribution to the modernization of China. So that's the message.
It's basically an economic message.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Michael DeGolyer, now, you do a lot of polls. You do continuously you do polling looking at Hong Kong sentiment. We're sitting here, the three of us, and we're talking about an anti-business sentiment or a hate the rich sentiment. Those are two very different things.
Yes.
There's an anti-business sentiment, and I mean, I don't really think people hate the rich, do they, Michael?
I don't think so, no. Not in that sense. I think in terms of resentment of business, I think it's more a resentment of big business, and that's probably why you had so much reaction to this meeting between Hu Jintao and Li Ka-shing. A sense that big business has an unfair advantage in Hong Kong. The sense of unfairness, that policymaking, for example, is unfair, is just overwhelming. We find anywhere between 2/3 and up of people that we call tell us that they think policymaking is unfair. And so the sense that big business has undue influence.
This is government policy making.
That's right. People don't resent that business has influence because business has interest. They don't mind that. They think business has a legitimate place at the table. But having an undue influence, having secret influence, having the kind of influence that can veto, a business interest or a very narrow business interest can veto everybody else's interest. And just to give you a simple example of that, look at the developers, the housing developers, the property developers. We probably have a record low number of flats being built this year. And we have at the same time, and not unrelated, record high prices.
Well, if there's no supply, then the prices go up.
That's exactly right. And yet we also know that the developers are sitting on huge banks of land that they're not building on. And basically the sense that they are manipulating the market and keeping a whole generation of people from being able to get into the market, and that the government is basically sitting on its hands while they're doing this.
And doing nothing
That's
about
what's creating
creating the
sentiment.
sentiment.
That's
well,
right.
you know, I want to pick up on that point, Dr. Song, what Michael DeGolyer said. He made the example of developers sitting on huge land banks that they're not using. They're building fewer apartments, so the prices go up. People can't afford it anymore. But some people can. The rich guys from China can, and they're making a lot of money. But that's capitalism, isn't it?
Oh, that's capitalism. But capitalism doesn't mean unfair. Doesn't mean doing the bad thing to the ordinary people. Capitalism could be showing concern to the human
That's
being.
not capitalism.
No.
Oh, no.
If I have a piece of land, I don't want to build something on it. That's my right.
You have to go back to the guy who was the first theorist of capitalism, Adam Smith. And Adam Smith told his readers and told government people that you have to be aware of businessmen because every time they get together, they conspire to fix the market. Capitalism is a market that works, a market in which ensures competition. And what we have in Hong Kong is a market that almost works the exact opposite.
It's like a monopoly, more or less.
It's more like a monopoly.
But the thing is,
not
the
a
government
competition.
does say its motto is small government, big markets. It doesn't want to interfere.
Recently, there's a new vocabulary called mortgage slave, as you know.
That's right. You're a slave to the big developers
exactly.
all your life.
So people want to be rich. People don't showing resentment to the rich people, except that for the younger generation, they just want to buy a home. But there's no way to buy a home or even rent a home with a reasonable price. So that's the problem for today's younger generation. So they complain to the government. They want the government to open up new scheme of home ownership scheme. But the government keep finding all kinds of words to refill. Let's say we get not enough land in an urban area.
Why is the government doing that? Is it afraid of the property developers, the tycoons?
That's exactly what DeGolyer said. People used to associate the government as taking side with the real estate businessman. And Mr. Lee is just the most important real estate businessman in Hong Kong. So the government policy always inclined to help the businessman out instead of helping the ordinary citizen. That's a serious problem right now.
Okay.
People don't think the government
is helping the little guy, right?
Right, exactly.
But did the sentiment, would you agree, Michael DeGolyer, that it's really not an anti-business sentiment? It's basically an anti-sentiment against those big developers, right?
Well, it's not just the big developers. I think the sense is people don't mind competition as long as everybody's competing and everybody has a chance to compete. That's the essence of sportsmanship as well as capitalism. Okay, but whenever you have a fixed competition, nobody who watches sports wants a fixed competition.
What do you mean by a fixed competition?
That's precisely the point. Whenever you feel that the competition is fixed, that you can't get in, or if you get in, you'll get pushed out. Well, we know very well. For example, we've had public advertisements in the newspapers just a few years ago when one developer conspired to lower the price that he had agreed to maintain. And one developer got very upset about that. Now, in other countries, that would put both developers in jail because that's price fixing. And price fixing.
But we don't have laws like that.
We don't have laws like that. The government has talked about implementing such laws. They have hemmed and hawed about eventually drafting a bill to do something about competition policy.
But there's a competition law coming up now, an anti-monopoly law.
Eventually, and the question is, will it have teeth or just milk teeth? You know, will it just sit there and grimace at the offenders, or will it actually be able to bring them to book?
The younger generation feel angry about the government's policy not helping them. For example, you're selling one land in Ho Chi Minh, 10 billion Hong Kong dollar. For students grant and loan, okay, we are talking 300 million. It's a very small number, but the government refused to let.
And that seems very unfair.
Exactly unfair.
It's a definition of unfair. Huge amount for the one person, tiny amount for the other.
Yeah, and when the government saying that we are emphasizing on education, on helping the poor out, that's small money. Government really means to pay it out, but instead of keep selling the land in a high price, and that contribute to the skyrocketing price in Hong Kong.
We'll pick that up after the break. See you soon. Don't go away.